Series of oral histories sponsored by the Smoky Valley Historical Association. I am Elston Flohr, a member of the faculty in the Department of English Theater and Speech at Bethany College, a member of the board of the Historical Association, and director of its oral history project. An interesting aspect in the development of the West was the arrival of orphan trains or orphan coaches from the East. Some of these orphan children came to the Smoky Valley, I believe, in the 1920s. On January 23, 1986, I visited with Anna Fuchs, who resides at 408 West State Street in Lindsborg. While she eventually settled in McPherson rather than Lindsborg, her story will serve as representative of others who had the same experience. In the late 70s, CBS telecast a segment in which Martha Teichner interviewed Anna Fuchs and her sister in McPherson. This interview was retelecast on Charles Kuralt's Sunday morning program in January of this year. Following a viewing of this CBS interview, we will have our most recent interview of Anna Fuchs.
It must have seemed a good idea at the time, the best way out for orphans and other children abandoned on the streets of New York City. Put them on a train going west, send them to small towns where people might want them. From 1854 right up to 1929, the Children's Aid Society of New York ran orphan trains. It's a little-known bit of American history told in a book called Searching for Home. As you will see, it's also a story that asks a couple of fundamental questions. What is home? And what is family? Here is the story retold by Martha Teichner.
The trains coming through McPherson, Kansas only bring freight now. They used to bring people. 61 years ago, a train brought Anna and Margaret Fuchs to town.
Happy birthday, dear Anna. Happy birthday.
Anna Fuchs celebrates another birthday in a house full of the family members she grew up with. They are descendants of Swedish immigrants who came to the wheat fields of Kansas as pioneers. But Anna has only one blood relative here, her sister Margaret, and their roots are far from Kansas.
Well, however you want to.
They were born in New York City, Anna on the right, the children of Hungarian immigrants. For almost a century, European immigrants poured into New York's ghettos to find new lives, good lives. Some found only poverty, sickness, early death. They left behind orphans, thousands of them. Homeless children wandered the alleys, slept in the streets. Life began happily for Anna, Margaret, and their baby sister Helen, but this amusement arcade picture was to be the last one taken of the entire family. The girls' father, Stephen Fuchs, died at a young age. Shortly afterward, their mother, Catherine, died too. The girls were placed in an orphanage. Anna was 9.
I hated the place, and not because they mistreated us in physical ways or anything like that, but just I wanted to get away from it. If I'd stayed at the orphanage until I got into my teens, the only way out would be working in factory and someplace like that, and I knew I did not want to end up working in a factory.
Escaped the orphanage. She and her sisters were among 100,000 orphans shipped to the Midwest by the Children's Aid Society, which believed they had a better chance in foster homes on the farms and in the small towns of the Great Plains. They became known as Children of the Orphan Trains. Posters advertised the arrival of a new shipment for the farmers and townspeople. Some of the children found love. Some found hard labor and abuse. Anna and Margaret remember the day they stepped off the orphan train in McPherson along with their sister Helen, who died a few years ago. Anna still lives here. Margaret lives in San Diego, but returned to McPherson at our request to help tell their story.
The first thing I did was to look around and, how come they're letting us out in the middle of nowhere? I couldn't see any buildings. I was looking for skyscrapers.
It was December 1924 when the orphans arrived. Christmas decorations were up then, too. The children were taken to a church and lined up on a platform in a row so the townspeople could come and inspect them and decide whether they wanted one. As Anna stood on that church platform, she worried no one would take her because she had a congenital hip defect and a deformed hand.
Well, just the idea that I just didn't think that anybody would want someone like that, because normally you think of someone when they want children, why they want someone that they can kind of be proud of, I guess.
But Jenny Bengston, a spinster who grew up in a large Swedish-American family, took Anna into her home, raised her, and scrimped to help put her through college. Jenny ran a boarding house, but she made room for Anna.
She was a person I could trust. When I first came here, I did not trust anyone. I had lost faith in people. And she was always behind me, big moral support in everything I did. I would say she was a mother and a friend and counselor, all wrapped up in one. A lot of fun. A lot of happy days in this house.
Margaret was placed with a couple across town. They ran a boarding house, too, and when it was filled, Margaret slept in the basement.
The house never really seemed like a home to me. As far as I was concerned, it was just a house. I have no sentimental attachment to it.
There was little time for play, and she did not see much of Anna.
Like in my case, I never really felt that I was a part of a family. Never felt that I had a family. I always had the feeling that I was there in place of a maid. If I would want to visit with my sister Anna, oftentimes it would be that, well, no, you can't do that today. Today I want you to wax the living floor, or the bathrooms need scouring, or I need an extra cake made.
I really feel like I've had two mothers. And I know one of the things that hurt me the most after Jenny passed away, some people would come and tell me, they said, why do you feel so bad? She wasn't your mother. And that was the hardest thing for me to take. We didn't say grace before we started that.
Anna, growing up with Jenny Bengston and all of Jenny's relatives, became a part of McPherson. She worked for an insurance company in town until her recent retirement. This is where her family and friends are. Margaret left town as soon as she finished school. She never forgot New York and the few happy years there with her parents. As a child, she dreamed of running away to New York.
I wanted to get back there to see if we couldn't find some relatives.
Why? Why this need to go back, to recapture, to...
Because I was always positive that we had some family there. And I wanted family. I felt that if we found any relatives there, if we could locate any relatives, then we could all go back there and be together again.
Years later, Margaret, married now and with her own family, did go back to New York. There were no relatives. But she did fulfill one dream. She found the graves of her parents. Her father, buried in one cemetery with an infant son. Her mother in another cemetery, several miles away. Margaret placed markers on the graves.
I had to go back. I really can't explain that feeling of I wanted to go back. I wanted to find out. But I don't know. It was just something that I felt I had to do, and I did it. I remember having a very, well, all I can say is just an odd feeling of finally seeing where they were. I don't know how to put it.
Did it make you happy?
Yes, it did. I don't know, maybe it's sort of like you finally had a complete ending to something instead of something just hanging there, not knowing, you know.
The Orphan Train has faded into history. The lives of Anna Fuchs of McPherson, Kansas, other people scattered across the country are still shaped by it.
On behalf of the Smoky Valley Historical Association, I want to express our appreciation to you, Anna, for your willingness to talk about your experiences beginning with your trip west on the Orphan Train. I was very pleased to see the interview on CBS Charles Kuralt's News Sunday Morning, which was telecasted several weeks ago. Today happens to be January 23rd, 1986. I understand, though, that interview, that film, had been made several years previously.
6 years ago.
6 years ago. That would have been in
1979, December of 79.
In December of 79. Right. And then that was telecast then shortly after that, or the early part of 80?
In 79.
It was telecast even in
December
79.
16th.
Mm-hmm. And you, we were talking earlier, you said something about that they were hastening to get it ready before
they wanted
film.
To show it before they showed the movie The Orphan Train, because they felt that this was a true story where the Orphan Train was fictionalized.
Did you see the film The Orphan Train?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
They emphasized more the travel on the train, and they didn't really show the true meaning that the important thing was that there were people at the other end willing to take people in. And they stopped at that. They just kept showing train trip.
They didn't emphasize the adoptive parents who were waiting for these children. Well, what do you think about the Martha Teichner interview?
I thought they handled it very nicely. They brought out the meaning and the work that they were doing, and proved that some of the cases did work out very good.
And it was involved you and your sister, of course. Now, they had done many hours of interviewing and filming.
Yes, they did.
And that was all done in McPherson?
That was all done in McPherson. They came up to the Lindsborg Museum to check on some of the newspapers and back articles.
That film gave some very interesting statistic that I didn't realize. That they said that these orphan trains, I think, ran from 1854 to 1929.
Right.
Many years of these orphan trains.
75 years.
75 years, and I think she said around 100,000 children came west. But I want to maybe to catch some things that didn't get into the interview. So I'd like to hear what you remember of your early life in New York. I remember that in the film you said you hated the orphanage. Do you remember any more details about the orphanage?
No. Well, yes, I do remember things, but the thing of it is, after you have lost your parents and you don't know anyone there, and it's such a contrast, and it's basically was a place where you were given shelter and food, but really no care, no love there or anything like that.
Very cold environment.
Yes. And,
were you forced to do any kind of work?
Oh, we would do dishes, and we did a lot of mending and patching and things like that. We had no schooling, and there just wasn't.
And this, let's see, how old were you when your parents died?
I was 10 when my mother died. My father died when I was about 7 or 8 years old.
Yes. Now the film indicated, the television film indicates that your parents were Stephen and Catherine Fuchs, and they were Hungarian
Hungarians.
immigrants. What did your father work at?
My father was a butcher.
A butcher.
Yes, and we didn't know too much about the back. We really didn't know anything about the background. And my father got TB, so he was at a TB sanitarium, and I was also at the TB sanitarium for 5 years with him.
I see.
And then Mother and my 2 sisters were in the apartment in the city.
Did your mother then, I presume, have to work?
No, I don't think so. I think she was just, if she did things in the home.
Took care of the family.
And she may have done some piecework at home, but she didn't actually work in a building, because a lot of people at that time didn't work in the factories and that. They did some jobs at home.
And I understand there were 4 children in the family?
Yes, I had a twin brother that died before he was a year old.
And his name was John.
I always have to check on that.
I think the films indicated that
yes,
it was John. His name appeared on your father's tomb,
yes,
on your father's tombstone. So this was in New York City.
In New York City. Yes.
What particular area do you remember?
We ended up by living in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
I can remember when I was real small, before I was 5 years old, and that we lived in a very nice apartment with lace white curtains. We had light, we had windows. The hallway was nice and wide. Stairway was nice and wide, and had the landing so that you didn't have a long flight. And after Dad got sick, of course, at that time, if you got sick, you didn't get paid for any time. And so we kept going down and down and down, and finally ended up in an apartment on the 5th floor with long, narrow stairway, dark.
I know what they're like.
And we had 2 bedrooms, and neither bedroom had any window. And window in the living room, and window in the kitchen, and then a huge wash tub type of sink, where that was your kitchen sink, and your laundry, and that was your facility. And
yes. Do you remember what year it was your father passed away?
No, I don't. I know I can look it up, but it was a time between I was about 7 or 8.
And then your mother?
And my mother passed away when I was 10.
When you were 10.
And the early part of the year that we came out here in 24.
And then I assume that the Children's Aid Society then took charge?
Took charge, yes. There were some neighbors in the apartment there that saw to it that we were...
And then were you, for the 3 girls then, were sent to the orphanage? Where about, do you remember what part of New York the orphanage was?
On Sailor Snug Harbor. That's hard to say. Snug Harbor.
Snug Harbor? I see. And you talked a little bit about what the life in the orphanage, your work, you had to do dishes and some sewing and so on. But you didn't get any schooling?
No, they grouped us in 2 groups. And I think they went according to age, and they would have a little reading class for us, and then that was it.
And the reading class was held by those who ran the orphanage?
Yes.
I see.
And it was basically the same at the sanitarium when I was there. We had schooling, but it was more or less to teach us English, because a lot of the people there didn't know how to speak English. So the emphasis was teaching us how to speak English and teaching us reading. And that would be about 2 hours in the morning, and that was it, because the rest of the time we were supposed to be resting and that, so that was all the schooling.
Now your mother was also Hungarian?
Yes.
So was Hungarian the language then spoken in the home?
Yes.
So you, as a young girl, you spoke the Hungarian. What language is that? Is it a Slavic language, is it?
I imagine it's pretty much on
like
that
Russian
order, because I can't remember the language at all, except that I did speak a foreign language. And then when you get someplace where you're taught English and everybody else has to do it in order to understand why.
Yeah, you would, of course, had probably picked up some English in the neighborhood where you lived.
Yes,
Young girl.
right.
And then these, of course, the orphan trains had been in existence. See, this was, what year was it that you came?
I came out in 1924, so we were sort of on the tail end of it.
On the tail end of that,
right.
With those orphan trains. And were the orphan trains sponsored by the Children's Aid Society? I believe that was indicated in the CBS film.
Basically, it became known as an orphan train, regardless of how many were on there. If there were just a group of, now we were only 9 in our group.
Oh.
And when they started out with their first ones, if they would be like one carload, they'd call the whole train an orphan train. So it wasn't that a train was a load of orphans. It could be any time that they had a group coming out from the orphanage, why they called it an orphan train.
Yes, when we hear the orphan train, we think of all the
yes,
composed of.
And that's why at the time I was first interviewed, and they asked me about the orphan train, and I said I had never even heard about it and didn't know anything about it. And after they talked and we discussed it and everything, then I said, well, I guess I did.
So it wasn't a special train?
It wasn't a special train, no, because now when we came, we were in a Pullman, so we had, but they called it an orphan train just because they had a group on there.
And I assume then the Children's Aid Society paid the railroad for the passage of the... Now, I want to know, did the Children's Aid Society have to be assured of prospective adoptive parents before they sent you out?
No, they were contacted by groups in certain towns and then they would ask them about how many they wanted and correspond back and forth, and then the towns were responsible for setting it up and all of that, and then they just brought out the group to that town. And sometimes they would contact the town to see if they were interested.
I see.
And I don't know who contacted us from McPherson. I know there were 3 groups that came to McPherson at 3 different times.
3 different times.
The first group came in 1911, and then our group came in 24, and then there was a group that came in 25.
In 1911 and 24 and 25.
And there could have been a group in between that I don't know anything about, but I do know those 3.
So you would have left then from Grand Central Station in New York?
In New York, yes.
New York. Can you remember any of the details about your trip west by railroad?
Not too much. We changed trains. We were on a ferry boat in order to get to New York. And then when we got on the train, then we made a stop at Chicago and had to change trains there. And when we stopped, they just told us where we were, and just remember so that you can say you've been to Chicago, and that was it. And the only thing I can remember that I just thought to myself, I was just glad to get away from it, and I just naturally, I thought we were headed for California, which we weren't, but I was just glad to get away from the orphanage, and it really didn't make much difference where I was going.
And you were 10 years.
Yes, I was.
Was anyone placed in charge?
There was one lady that was in charge of us, and her name was Anna Laura Hill.
Anna Laura Hill.
And she was in charge.
And she had taken the trip specifically for that purpose?
Yes, she was what they called was an agent for the group.
An agent for the...
she had many groups that she brought out. And she was a very outstanding person because she just won the confidence of the kids right away.
She treated you kindly.
And she was just the type of person you felt like you could trust. Up to that time, I shied away from adults and just felt like You couldn't trust them
because of your orphanage experience.
Well, and also some of the experience I had prior to going to the orphanage, where I had been lied to about certain things, and that at the time that my dad died, I was positive of it, and yet they tried to tell me that he hadn't died.
Oh.
And I just felt like after that you just couldn't trust me.
You wanted the truth to be told.
and she just gave you the feeling. And it's surprising because many, after the first showing of the film 6 years ago, and the article that came out in the papers on the AP news, I heard from so many people that had been brought out by her. And they all remarked about what a wonderful person she was.
So
she just had a
after
natural
that
ability.
film appeared in '79, you heard from people
Yes.
that had been on the train?
On trains.
Other trains.
Other trains that she had.
Anna
Hill. So she had. And she kept in touch with many, and I kept in touch with her, and we'd correspond and that.
Well, how nice. She was employed then by Children's Aid Society of New York. So you changed trains in Chicago
and then we came
Kansas City, I suppose.
And I can remember we slept. The three of us girls slept in the upper berth of the Pullman train, and like any little kids at that age, we were very fascinated by sleeping in an upper bunk, you might say, and looking over the railing when a train would stop and other passengers would get on the train and some would leave. Why, we were very curious to see who was coming on, who's going out.
And how many again were in the group?
We were 9 in the group. The youngest one was 2, and I was the oldest.
2. The youngest one was 2 years old.
2 years old. And so he happened to be adopted by Dr. Hershey, who used to teach chemistry at McPherson College.
Oh.
He was adopted by that family.
Were you the only 3 girls then?
And we were 3 sisters, and then I don't remember if there were any other brothers and sisters or not there.
How many boys were there? You remember?
I believe there were 4 boys and 5 girls, but without looking back, I've got the list someplace.
So there would have been
I have to check
2 other girls
back
besides
on
you 3.
I'd have to check back on the
sisters.
article. I have that.
So then you traveled. Then you came from Kansas City to Salina, and then changed again.
No, we came straight through on the McPherson on the Rock Island.
On the Rock Island.
On the Rock Island.
From Kansas City
to the Rock Island Depot, and then we walked from the depot over to the McCord Hotel.
McCord Hotel?
Which is now.
Which isn't now?
They just finished tearing it down.
Oh, where did
completely torn down.
Was that the one that's west of Main Street?
Right on Marlin and Main.
Yes, I think I know where that would have been.
They just got through tearing down that building. And when we landed or got there at the depot, both my sis and I just thought it was the bleakest looking place and so flat, nothing around. And one thought that came to me, and I don't know why, there's no place you can hide. I guess everybody, when they're in an orphanage and that, always thinks of running away and that. And I suppose that was still strong in my mind. That was the first thing that
Well, that would have been a natural consequence of your having spent time in New York with all those
There's no place you can run and hide. And after being in the mountains, because we were in the Catskill Mountains, and being there 5 years and seeing such flat country.
Now, you were in the Catskill Mountains. That needs to be explained.
That's where the TB sanitarium
was. Oh, the TB. And your father was there, too?
And my father was in the TB sanitarium.
And you were there 5 years. And then you were, of course, impressed with the mountain scenery there.
Too. And then, of course, living in both places where I was used to big buildings or
nice scenery.
Nice scenery.
And then flat
And
canvas.
Flat Kansas didn't have any of that.
Yes. Well, you said you were taken then to the McCord hotel. And then what happened?
And we came in on a Friday.
And what date exactly was it?
That would have been on December the 5th.
December the 5th, 1924.
24.
That was a year after, incidentally, I was born.
Oh.
I was born in 23.
And it so happened that people would come to the hotel and took some of them out to their homes to, I guess, interview them to see if they would thought they would like and that. And no one took me. And so then I stayed that night and had supper at the hotel with Miss Hill and that. And then the next morning there was Bill Bishop from McPherson College that came, and he had been brought out by Miss Hill earlier to Sterling. And he was a student at McPherson College and worked at the Smalley Art Shop. And I didn't know until I read the book that's been written about me, Searching for Home, that Bill Bishop had actually wanted to adopt someone and bring him up. And that was his main idea. But his classmates talked him out of that. But he went back and talked to Miss Hill and wanted to know if he could do anything. And she said, well, we have one girl here, and her birthday is tomorrow, on Saturday. And she said, if you want to do something for her. So that's what he did, and it happened to be my birthday on Saturday. So he took me out to McPherson College, and I had dinner out there, and then they came back to the Smalley Art Shop, and they had a little birthday party for me. And there were, I think, about 6 college students all together. And they had a little dinner party for me and gave me a book and that. And then in the afternoon, then we were all brought to the Presbyterian Church on Main Street in McPherson. And they were on South Main. Now they've rebuilt and they're out on North Main.
All 9 children were brought in?
All were 9, and we were placed on the platform in front of the church. And the youngest one, we were arranged according to age. So the youngest one was down at the end, and I was clear down at the other end. And the church was packed, really packed. They were standing, and they were just seated as closely as they could be. And one of the group, they would have about 6 of them who would help decide where the children should be placed. And one of them happened to be Dr. Heaston. He was a family friend and also the doctor for Jane Bankston, and lived across the alley from them. So they were very well acquainted. And as Dr. Heaston came walking into the church, and he walked by there, Jenny motioned to him, and she told him, she said, I'd like to have the girl on the end. And that was me. Well, in the meantime then, Miss Hill got up and talked to the group and told them about this movement, and then said something about the background for each one of us. And then those who were interested would turn their names into this committee. And then the committee would decide, and it was to be announced. So I don't know what they did during that time. Miss Hill probably answered questions and things like that. But then they announced the names of the people who were going to take in the children and asked them to come to the front of the church.
Before we proceed, you mentioned a book that has been written about you?
Yes, it's called Searching for Home, and it's by Martha Nelson both and
Searching
Christine.
for Home.
And in that book are stories of 3 families. And I'm one of the families, and Bill Bishop is the other family, and Schweitzer is another family. And all three of us were brought out by Miss Hill.
To McPherson?
One to Sterling, and I was brought, of course, to McPherson, and the other one was up around Abilene. I can't remember just for sure, but in that area. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And the young man was?
Bill Bishop.
Bill Bishop. Mm-hmm. Who published that book?
I can't tell you the name.
Was it published locally?
It was from, these people lived in Grand Rapids, and it was a publishing company there.
Oh,
it was very difficult to publish because this is true facts, and all the other publishing companies wanted to elaborate on it. Fictionalize it, and they didn't want to leave it as true facts, so they had a hard time, and they finally got this one company to publish it then.
Yeah, now I'd like to ask about the lady who took you in, so to speak, Jenny Bankston.
Jenny Bankston.
What do you know about her family, her background?
She was a single person, and she had her brother was David Bankston, who was the father of Ralph Bankston. A lot of people know Ralph because he married the Brossie girl here in Lindsborg.
Oh.
And then also one sister was married to Joe Swanson in McPherson, and that Ingeborg Dorff, who lives here in Lindsborg, that was her parents, Joe and Minnie Swanson. So Jenny Bankston was an aunt of Ingeborg Dorff.
Jenny Bankston, an aunt of Mrs. Julius Dorff. Oh. Yes, when I talked to the Dorffs, they mentioned that.
And then Walter and Esther Anderson that lived here on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
And Esther died here just a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Walter's mother was a sister of Jenny Bankston.
Oh.
So
Walter Anderson was the carpenter, wasn't he? Or he is the carpenter?
No, he was a farmer.
A farmer.
He was a farmer. He lived in, I always think of it as Huey's house there on North Main, down where the park is, right along in there, that brick house. Is it North? Yes, it's North Main.
And Jenny then was a sister? A sister, an aunt of Mrs. Julius Dorff.
You're right.
And you said she ran a boarding house.
And yes, she had kept high school students.
Oh.
And so she didn't have much of an income. Her father had passed away about 2 years before I came, and she had no training for any other job, so she did that, and then
did she have to rent the house then?
She had the high school kids would stay there during the week, and that, and then later on she got changed so that she would get different workers, and that we never knew for sure how many, whether we were going to have anyone or whether we weren't, and but that was her means of livelihood.
Then, so you were 10 or 11 then?
I was 11 then.
And then I suppose you had to help then with the cooking and cleaning and so on?
Yes, which actually I didn't think anything about that because everybody else did that. I had to help with the
students
work. Well, I mean, at every home, why, if you were that age, you had to help.
Oh, yes, I see what you mean.
And that, so I never, that was just a part of it.
Do you remember how many children or how many high school students she boarded?
Well,
and roomed, I guess. Lodged.
We could have about 6 at a time. And that.
I would imagine there would be very much income to...
No, there wasn't too much income on that. And then later on, then when the oil development started, then we had a lot of oil workers, and we'd have people that were clerking in stores, and we'd do their washing as well as giving the meals, and the oil field workers and that, we had to prepare their lunch, and so that they could take out in the fields and that.
Where in McPherson was her book house?
She lived in the 500 block on East Marlin.
Oh, no, Marlin.
On Marlin.
Is the house still
standing? The house is still there. And she certainly wasn't prepared for it. When she went up there, to the church, she had no idea she'd end up
more
with
or less of a hunch.
And I've often asked her what made up her mind. And she said, well, I don't know. She said, I finally just decided that that's the way it was supposed to be, and I say, well, how about putting me through school and all that? And she said, well, I never gave much thought, and I finally decided that if God wanted me to have you, He'd see to it that we'd get through some way, and that was always her reply, that it was.
So then how did you catch up on your schooling?
Well, when I came here, I should have gone into the 6th grade, according to my age, but they decided that since I didn't have any school records or anything like that, to put me in the 5th grade because I had enough adjustments to make anyway. And I think what helped me was that I was a little bookworm. I learned how to read, and I'd pick up anything and just read. And that way it wasn't that hard for me to catch up because I really turned out to be a bookworm. And
how far then did you go in schooling?
I graduated from McPherson College.
Oh.
And
what year was that?
I graduated in 37, finished high school in 32, and I had part-time work when I was in high school. And then when I worked up at the county hospital in the kitchen, and then my freshman year of college, I kept working up at the hospital. And then when it came to sophomore year, I quit because I just couldn't see Jenny trying to spend that much money on that, and because it just wasn't there. So I tried to get a job. I got odd jobs off and on, but I couldn't get anything that would hold through. But I did get a job working at the courthouse for 3 months selling car tags. And that's all that lasted. Then I was out. Well, then the following year, I was still trying to get a job. And of course, in the 30s, that wasn't very easy. And the employment office kept saying, well, you need to go to college. You need to go to college. Well, I said, I can't go to college. I haven't got the money. And so finally, then about the 3rd week in September, after school had started, they contacted me and they said, you're going to college. And they had some kind of a student's own. I can't remember what it was called at that time. Similar to the WPA, but it was for college. And the one who had taken it couldn't do it, so I was going to get in on that. So I went out and enrolled in college then. Well, then when it came to December, they called up from the courthouse and they said they'd like for me to come back and do that job at the selling car tags. And I didn't know what to do then. So I talked to them and I said, well, I can earn more money on working those 3 months than getting this loan. So they said, well, okay, we'll make arrangements. You can cut your classes then and then come back and take up. So from then on, as I got through college, I'd go to college in September, October, November. Then I'd work in December, January, and February. Then I'd go back to school and finish up.
You had a lot of catching up.
So I was always catching up, and and that was before you had this long interim period. You just had one day between semesters and maybe only 1 week at Christmas. So I was always catching up work.
Yeah.
But I made it, and they said, well, if you're a B student, you'll become a C student since you're missing out so much classwork. But the teachers were real good. I had one teacher who wasn't going to do it that way, and then later on, then some of the other teachers talked to her, and she came back and she apologized. She said, Anna, I didn't realize that you really had to work your way through school. And after that, she was one of the best ones, because I had to take private exams at the end of the semester because I wasn't out there when they were giving the exams, so they'd arrange it so that I'd come in and...
I think I remember the television program that you worked for an insurance company then.
Yes.
Which insurance company was
the
it?
Alliance Insurance
the
Company.
Alliance, and that was your career then at the insurance company?
Yes.
Had you had business courses at McPherson?
I took typing out there and accounting, and then there was always such a change in schedules and everything, and by the time I was going to graduate, they changed their requirements and everything, so I ended up with getting a teacher's degree instead of going out doing anything else, and I taught 1 year.
Well, where did you teach?
And I taught out at a little country school, you might say, out at Covert. It was between Russell and Osborne. It was just a rural high school. But I never wanted to teach, and I found out I was not cut out for a teacher. I enjoyed going to school, but I was not a teacher. So after that, I went to business school at Hutchison. And started out there, and then I had a chance to do some work right around Christmas time. It was going to be just a part-time job for about 3 weeks, and so I thought, okay, I'll take it. Well, that turned out to be a 5-year job, so I never went back to school then to Hutchison.
So you were there just several months then?
Yes, because I got this part-time job that turned into a 5-year job, but then after that, then I worked at Farmers Alliance.
The 5-year job was where?
At the Agricultural Adjustment Administration.
Oh, that was during the Depression then?
Yeah,
the
AAA, all the wheat loans and all underground and all of that.
Do you remember any interesting tales about that organization at those times?
Well, interesting in this respect that I would, when the farmers were going to get wheat loans, they had to make up their little samples of wheat that they put in their bin. And I ended up by trying to, my job was tying those packages and getting them ready to mail in for testing. I ended up by going to some of these elevators and checking the wheat when they brought it in from their home bins that were going to put them in the elevators, and I had to go out there and help on that part. So I was doing a lot of things that I didn't know anything about, and so.
And then your longer career then was with the Alliance. As a what?
I worked in the IBM computer.
Did you have a lot of computer experience?
Well, yes. Of course, at that time they were called tabulating machines and sorting machines and all that. But it's basically the basics behind the computers, and I worked in that department all the time.
Now I'd like to ask. Margaret was on that. She's still living in. She lives in.
She lives in San Diego, right?
In San Diego, and she was in that, And Helen had come, but she died early.
She was killed in a car wreck in the late '60s.
Oh, around McPherson.
No, she in Corpus Christi.
Well, she had moved down there.
She had moved down there.
Had she married?
Yes, she had been married. She was married, and moved down to Corpus Christi.
Do you have any nieces or nephews?
I have 2 nephews, and one of them is living in Cologne, Germany, and the other one is in Arizona.
And then, let's see, have you seen your San Diego sister since '79?
Yes, I was out there last summer. And I was out there for 3 weeks.
Is her husband still living?
Her first husband was killed in the Korean War. He was in the group that made the first landing at Korea, and he was killed in making that first landing. And then she, after she moved to California, and then she remarried, and the man she married lost his wife, had cancer, and he had 2 children, a boy and a girl.
So Margaret had first lived in McPherson.
Well, she lived in McPherson until she finished high school, and then she moved to Manhattan. And her husband was a Army careerman, and so they moved quite a bit.
He maybe had been stationed at Fort Riley?
Yes, he'd been stationed at Fort Riley, and he was from around Little River, so they had met here, and she was married in McPherson. And he didn't make the Army his career until he had been in the service and had the option of going out or staying in, and he stayed in.
Did I ask exactly what date it was that you arrived on as an orphan to McPherson? It was in 1924.
December.
December.
That we arrived, and it was on December the 6th that they took us to the church and
I was trying to take some notes from that. It seemed to me like she said September, but maybe I misheard her. I mean, I thought she said September something, but then I probably heard December wrongly. Yeah, it's interesting. You know, now in cases like this, there have to be oodles and oodles of social workers involved in placing children in homes, but what was the equivalent of a social worker in those days?
Well, their requirements were very simple. I have a sheet here I could show you if you want to take time out for. Can you stop it? Oh, because this was sent to us after the AP article came out, and it happened to be sent to us by a man who'd been brought up to McPherson, and he had this incentive. But their requirements there are they must treat the children in every way, members of the family, sending them to school, church, Sabbath school, and properly clothe them until they are 18 years old. And that was the only requirement.
Protestant children placed in Protestant homes and Catholic children in Catholic homes.
There was one Catholic in our group, and they had a hard time placing her because in McPherson, the Catholic Church was very small.
At that time.
And it still is. It's not a large church. And they didn't know what they were going to do. And they finally found a Catholic family, and it happened to be E.C. Mingenbeck, who was the president of the Farmers Alliance Company.
And they took one of the children.
And they took the one girl that was Catholic. And
Mingenbeck.
So if they couldn't find a home for anyone, they would take them back then to New York.
Oh, really?
Or they had one boy in our group that they couldn't place right away, and someone said, well, they would take him and keep him till in the spring, and they had someone in Kansas City that was interested, but they weren't quite prepared, so this family took care of the boy then until the spring, and then they took him to this other home. So, and I will say this, something that some of them don't really, they think, well, after they got in, they didn't pay much attention, but they did check on the homes. And after the first showing in '79, I got a letter from two people. They were twins that lived in Arizona, and they're known as the Darrah twins. And they had been placed, she told me, they had been placed in a home in Canton. And one of the parents was good to them, and the other one wasn't. So Miss Hill came out and took the twins out of that home, and it happened to be the same time that they had this bunch here in 1911. And then they brought them to McPherson and placed them into a home there. So if they find out that they are mistreated, they make an effort. But it's just like nowadays, it's pretty hard to prove when you hear about that certain ones are mistreated, and it was the same thing there. So they do make an effort. And in Searching for Home, in that book, it tells an instance where a family had adopted them, and Miss Hill had to go to court to annul that. And when I read that, I thought, if she'd have been living today, why, she'd really have been one of these.
In most cases where the children were legally adopted.
Yes. Now, in my case, this is really odd. Jenny did not adopt me until I was 40 years old.
Oh.
And, well, we just never thought about it. And one thing, she was single. She didn't want me to take her name.
Oh, yeah.
And, of course, back in 1924, things were different, and she didn't want people to think that I was an illegitimate child.
Yes.
And she said, besides, she said, you're too old to change your name, and I don't want you to ever forget about your own parents. So for that reason, she didn't want me to change my name. And so then when I was working, and see, she was 49 too, which also makes a difference. She was 49 years old when she took me in. And so when she got to be around in her 75 or close to 80 in that, the tables were turned. She had no income other than mine because she never had a job where she could get Social Security. She never had any property, and keeping boarders and roomers, you don't get enough money to say. So the tables were turned, and I was taking care of her. I couldn't list her as a dependent on my income tax. And then she was getting to the place where she was had glaucoma, so she couldn't see very good. So I thought, well, now maybe I can get her as a tax exemption for that. Well, that didn't work either. And then when I went to the lawyer, he said, well, I can do it if you get adopted. So when I was 40 years old, and she adopted me. So for about 5 minutes, I had my name listed as Anna Bankston, and then they made up papers to change my name back to Anna Fuchs. Because he said, now you've got so many things now just in the name of Anna Fuchs, and you can't very well take her name. So that's the way it happened. But there's the adoption paper right there. That's all, which is quite simple compared.
Yeah, would it be interesting to have you read it?
Well, I can do. I, the undersigned, Jenny Bankston, agree to provide for Anna Fuchs, age 11, according to the following terms and conditions, and with the full understanding that the Society reserves the right to remove the child previous to legal adoption, if at any time the circumstances of the home become such as, in the judgment of the agent, are injurious to the physical, mental, or normal well-being of the child. The terms and conditions for the retention of the child in my family being as follows: to care for her in sickness and in health, to send her to school during the entire free school year until she reaches the age of 16 years, to have her attend church and Sunday school when convenient, and to retain her as a member of my family until she reaches the age of 18 years. In case she proves unsatisfactory, I agree to notify the Society, and pending her removal, to keep her a reasonable length of time after such notice has been given. I agree, moreover, to use my best endeavor then and at all times to detain her should she try to leave me, until the Society can take steps for her removal. I agree to keep her at all times as well supplied with clothing as she was when I received her. It is understood and agreed on my part that after the period of 5 years following date of placement has elapsed, the Society cannot be called upon for removal. I agree to write to the Society at least once a year, And should I change my address, I will notify them.
Now, this was assigned?
Yes, but she never signed it.
Oh.
She never signed it. So, but that, so they...
That was by the Children's Aid Society?
By the Children's Aid Society.
Now, would that have been legal in Kansas? I mean, I suppose it...
I don't know if they had to probably take this to the courthouse to...
But when you were adopted, when you were 40, you said she adopted you. That was a different kind
That
of
was a different, that was the legal adoption processes and had to be recorded at the courthouse and all of that.
Were you able to, were we able to get any of the small print on this? Or should we, I can read it. Is Homes for Children wanted? A company of homeless children from the East will arrive at McPherson Friday, September 15. This was 1911.
That was the first one. But that's from another group. That's the first group that came to McPherson.
Yeah, so a number of years, 14 years or 13 years or so before you. But this would have been the one that the young men from McPherson College came.
Yes, that was the one that...
These children are of various ages and of both sexes, having been thrown friendless upon the world. They came under the auspices of the Children's Aid Society of New York. They are well disciplined, having to assist the agent in finding, they are well disciplined, having come from various orphanages. The citizens of this community are asked to assist the agent in finding good homes for them. Persons taking these children must be recommended by the local committee. They must treat the children in every way as members of the family, sending them to school, church, Sabbath school, and properly clothe them until they are 18 years old. Protestant children placed in Protestant homes, and Catholic children in Catholic homes. The following well-known citizens have agreed to act as a local committee to aid the agents in securing homes. Dr. Easton, F.A. Vanneman, H.A. Rowland, W.J. Crable, C.W. Batchelor, and K. Sorensen. Applications must be made to and endorsed by the local committee. An address will be given by the agents. Come and see the children and hear the address. Distribution will take place at the Opera House Friday, September 15th at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. And this was given to you by Charles Nelson Mant, is that his name?
I think so, M-A-N-D-T.
Where was he from?
He had been brought out at this time.
At that time?
And
those posters were posted around?
At that time, yes. And Miss Hill, it's mentioned, Miss Hill and Miss Comstock were the agents. And he just thought we would like to have it, so he said it to us. And they probably had the same thing when I came, but we didn't...
When you came. Do you know anything of any other people around this area who would have come on any of the orphan trains?
Well, I know there are several people in Lindsborg who have come, and whether it was from the same society, I don't know, because there were other groups.
Have you heard of an Adeline Lund?
Yes, and I know she came out.
But earlier than you did.
Yes, and now George Train, I believe it's George Train, was brought out by a group. Now, whether it's the same group or not, I don't know.
So those two you know of. Any more?
I know of. No, I don't know of any others.
Well, do you have anything else that you would like to say about... I'm sure that Jenny Bankston was pretty much of a mother to you.
Yes, and it's, I will say this, according to a lot of the letters that I have gotten from the first one, that it doesn't sound like a very good way of doing things, because there are a lot of adjustments and things, but at that time, there wasn't any better way.
No.
Things have changed, and when we think of things, we have to think about, compare it to the time that they happened. And many of them stated in their letters that even though it wasn't very successful and they had difficulties in their homes, and that it was still better than having remained in the city and having nothing to look forward to after you got out of the home. And I know some of them, one couple wrote to me and made the statement that both she and her husband had been in an orphanage, and you're let out. At that time, you were let out when you were in your teens, and they didn't know anyone, had no place to go, and worked in the factory, and they just got married because they didn't know anybody else. And she said, you were the lucky ones. And then some of them that said even though they were mistreated, they had at least were given a second chance and had a chance to see what a home should be like. And so there are a lot of ways of looking at it.
Sure. Well, thank you very much for sharing all of your experiences with us. It's been a very interesting experience for me to hear what you've had to say. Thank you again.
Thank you.